part of it is very technical. So the W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, just recently, just this month actually, has made officially RDFA a recommendation. So recommendation is actually the most important status you can get in the W3C. So the next version of HTML will now have RDFA, which is a standard that we've been working on for a long time, which will allow you to mark up content inside of a web page with the license for the content and the content owner. So all these programs will then, for instance, Yahoo SearchMonkey is now allowing you to do this. So inside, if you on your web page now use RDFA and you mark up and you say this is a Creative Commons license, this is who has to get attribution, it will automatically pull out and show you the Creative Commons license. And each bit of content on the web page can have a different notation. And so right now, I think one of the things that you do copy-paste by hand is very difficult to keep track of what piece of content was owned by who, and often the attribution information gets stripped away because we're doing it by hand, and that's a transaction cost. What we're going to try to do with all of this is to make it very automatic and seamless and build it into the tools, and working with the W3C on that's very important. So this is just one step, but what we're trying to do is make this as seamless as possible. And it's hard to express. I think people who work with the W3C will understand, but to become a recommendation of the W3C is a lot of work. So I really need to applaud all the people on our team that have been working on this. But this is kind of under the hood stuff. What will happen is you will see stuff like SearchMonkey, but other products that suddenly will let the Creative Commons licenses pop out without you having to do too much copy-paste. So Larry talked a little bit about Science Commons, so I'm going to explain and give a couple more examples. So Science Commons, I think originally, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like a bunch of foundations that give money for rare disease research came to us and said, okay, well, we've given grants to this organization, this organization, this organization, this organization, and we got all the solutions to put together the solution for this drug or whatever we need to solve this disease, but each of these universities and research institutions have a slightly different licensing problem, and we can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And we're the guys who are funding this stuff, but we still can't get these researchers to work together. And the researchers themselves want to work together, but it's the institutions and the technology and the legal stuff, and it sounded a lot like what we've been doing with Creative Commons licenses and culture. And in fact, there's many, many things that we're doing now that we have things like RDFA and our deeds and our licensing stuff that we can use in other areas. And so one completely different application, we find that actually when you move mice around and you move like protein samples around, there's a problem because there isn't very much incentive for somebody to share samples. And so what we found is that we tried to identify the problem. First of all, there's the license between the two. So if you're a researcher and I'm an unknown researcher in some other institution and I want to get a mouse from you, you have some restrictions and you have some freedoms that you want to give. Well, we found out that creating a deed for material transfers actually makes sense, and it standardizes the ability for people to do that. So just like the image that Larry showed earlier, now we have a deed for, do you allow clinical trials, do you allow to make copies of the mouse, and then we have a lawyer-readable version and we have a metadata version. So this is kind of a parallel, but now we're moving things around. And then what we did was we also thought about how valuable attribution has been in Creative Commons. So we do this, so you've got a guy who creates this special kind of gene, like a stem cell or something. They send it to the biobank, which is the one that sort of does the distribution. And there's another researcher who wants to get it. So the researcher goes to the provider and says, okay, I would like to get a copy of this mouse under this agreement. They get it from the biobank. The biobank tracks to make sure that the thing is delivered, and it actually tracks all the attribution. So if you're a researcher in a lab and you've come up with this great new protein, it will keep track of how many people have actually used the protein, what papers they were used in, and then you can take this back to your funders or university and say, well, it's actually valuable for me to distribute these samples because all these people have used it and it's driven this much research. And that attribution is really not available right now. So when you give samples away to other people, you really don't benefit very much. And so this kind of three-way pattern has helped a lot. And in addition to that, we've created with the semantic web stuff that we're doing, making it easier to search and order. So it's kind of like now you can go on something that looks a lot like eBay and actually order samples.